Apex Legends, a game where you drop in thinking you know what's going to happen, and then nope, the game immediately betrays you. A Wraith appears where she absolutely should not be. A Trident decides your squad deserves a free trip to orbit. A minigun somehow levitates above your head and opens fire like it's auditioning for Top Gun. You try to loot, you try to shoot, you try to live, and the game says, nah, let's make physics optional today. Today, we're counting down some of the funniest, weirdest, and most broken glitches in Apex Legends history. Every single one of these moments was clipped, streamed, and shared because they were completely unmissable. Wraith's portal is meant to be a high-stakes tool. You drop it, you commit, you rotate your squad, and then you sit there watching the cooldown thinking about your next move. That is how Wraith was always meant to be played. But for a short and unforgettable period, players discovered that the cooldown could be completely bypassed. Not reduced, not shortened, but erased entirely. The trick was timing. You would activate your portal, then cancel it at a moment so precise that most players never even tried it. When it worked, the game just gave the ultimate charge back instantly. Full charge, ready to use again. Portal again, cancel again, full charge again. Players started chaining portals across the map like Wraith had been given teleportation powers from a sci-fi movie. Clips began flooding in of a single Wraith moving her entire team from one side of the map to the other, repeatedly teleporting without waiting for cooldown. Respawn patched it as soon as those clips hit the wider community. But for that short window of time, Wraith was unstoppable, untouchable, and hilariously unfair in the most entertaining way possible. If there is one glitch that shows just how weird Apex's physics engine can behave, it is the supply bin launch. The bin had to be already open, hit the inside of it, and the game stored momentum that should never have existed. Then, when you got on top of it, you launched. Not a small boost, not a fun little jump, but flying across entire sections of the map in ways that made no sense at all. Players immediately began testing this in every imaginable way. They launched themselves to high ground that should have been unreachable. They threw teammates across the map to escape danger or create pranks. They even sent knocked enemies flying into safety or certain death. Octane players got creative and used these jump pads to launch themselves even farther. Clips show people flying all the way across the map, screaming, laughing, and panicking at the same time. Sometimes it was used for dramatic rotations, other times it was just pure fun. In Season 7, flying Sheila is one of those glitches that sounds made up until you see it with your own eyes. Rampart's mounted minigun Sheila is supposed to be stationary, placed in one spot to control an area, while Crypto's drone is supposed to be a scouting tool, quietly buzzing across the map. Somehow, due to how the game treated mounted objects and hitboxes, these two systems could interact in a way that was never intended. If Rampart placed Sheila in just the right position on uneven terrain, and Crypto flew his drone underneath it at the right angle, Sheila would attach to the drone's hitbox. From that moment, the drone could fly with Sheila attached and shoot bullets while in the air. Imagine being on high ground, thinking you have perfect sight lines on an approaching squad, and then hearing the spin up of a minigun above you. You look up and see a drone in the sky raining down bullets like an Apache helicopter. Entire teams were eliminated without ever seeing a human enemy in sight. Respawn patched it quickly once it spread, but for that brief window, Apex had flying artillery, and no one who saw it will ever forget it. Caustic has always been the slow, deliberate legend. He is meant to control space and punish enemies who push too recklessly. Then one patch changed everything. Players discovered that if they threw Caustic's ultimate, punched mid-animation, and holstered their weapon instantly, the game would launch him forward at extreme speed. This was not a slide, not a sprint. It looked like teleportation because it happened so fast. Clips show Caustic's appearing out of nowhere, closing distances instantly and completely confusing enemies who had no idea how he got there. A player might be retreating from a fight, thinking they were safe, and suddenly find Caustic standing on top of them. It was not cheating. It was a physics quirk combined with canceled animation momentum. Gibraltar is built like a tank. Extra shield health, defensive abilities that protect teammates, and a passive that helps him shrug off damage others would not survive. Players figured out that his gun shield could interact with deployables in a way no one expected. Items like gas traps, octane jump pads, and Watson fences could be placed on his shield. Once attached, they stayed there. Imagine walking into a building under control, expecting a normal fight, only to see Gibraltar strolling in with his gun shield in front of him, gas traps sticking out, an octane jump pad attached, and electric fences rattling against his arm. The room suddenly stopped being a simple engagement. It became unpredictable and wild. Clips from this setup show entire rooms being controlled not by walls or strategies, but by one massive shielded figure walking around with multiple layers of equipment hanging off him. Teammates bounced unpredictably, traps triggered instantly, and battles turned into moments that defied expectations. Every engagement became a spectacle, and even opponents could not help but laugh at how absurd these setups looked. Loba's tactical teleport ability is supposed to give her smooth and precise repositioning, allowing quick escapes or sneaky flanks. In the early seasons, that smoothness was nowhere to be found. Instead, the tactical often failed in spectacular and unpredictable ways. Throw it near a window and it would bounce off the frame and do nothing. Try to escape mid-fight, only to have it drop you straight to the floor. Try to reposition to a nearby rooftop and find yourself in an entirely different building with no idea how you got there. Streams from this era are full of players screaming, panicking, and laughing as their tactical fails happened mid-fight. Sometimes it worked perfectly and allowed a sneaky escape. Other times it caused disasters that ended in immediate knockdowns. One clip shows a player throwing their tactical behind enemy lines, only for it to hit an invisible collision point and bounce back toward them. The Trident is supposed to be a simple vehicle for rotations, zipping you across Olympus, but players found a way to turn it into an accidental rocket. The trick was ridiculous. Place an octane jump pad inside a loot bin, then boost the Trident directly into the supply bin. The game would register all that energy at once, and suddenly, the Trident, along with anyone inside, would shoot straight into the air. Not a gentle hop, not a normal jump, full-on airborne. Entire squads would launch hundreds of meters into the sky, spinning helplessly as the map rushed past them. Some squads used it just for rotation, trying to get across the map faster than intended. Clips from this era are unforgettable. 1 second, everyone is driving normally. The next, you are mid-air screaming, unsure whether you will land safely or plummet into the abyss. It looked like a bugged rocket launch, a physics experiment gone wrong, and the perfect mix of hilarity and terror. For a brief time, Tridents weren't vehicles anymore. They were airborne machines capable of creating the most absurd match moments in Apex history. Caustic's Nox gas traps are already deadly, but one glitch turned him into an unstoppable area denial nightmare. Players discovered that if you opened a door and tossed a gas trap immediately, the game would skip the normal loading time the trap usually needs. Instead of waiting for the trap to arm, it was ready instantly. That's insane on its own, but it gets better. You could stack this. Drop one trap, then another, and another. Each trap would load instantly, letting you saturate a hallway, doorway, or room with gas faster than the game ever intended. Entire rooms could be filled with lethal gas before enemies even knew what hit them. It was both hilarious and brutal. Watching enemies try to escape while gas traps kept stacking and popping everywhere created some pretty hilarious moments. As for the Caustic player, it was like being handed a cheat code for an instant Fortress of Doom. This is one of those moments that makes you laugh and go only in Apex. Normally, Octane's jump pad gives you a little bit of extra height so you can reposition or dodge fire. Horizon's tactical lift is supposed to pull you upwards so you can get high ground. Separately, both are great. Together, they created absolute madness. Players figured out that if Octane threw a jump pad and immediately punched it while being launched, he would be sent into the air just a bit faster than normal. That alone was weird enough, but the real trick came when a teammate playing Horizon was involved. Here's how it worked in practice. Octane pops down his jump pad and launches himself upward. Mid-air, Horizon throws her tactical, creating a vertical lift field right where Octane is still rising. The result is ridiculous. Instead of a simple boost or a small hop, Octane gets pulled up by Horizon's gravity lift while still riding the momentum of the jump pad. Suddenly, Octane is soaring hundreds of meters higher than either ability would allow on its own. It looked like the game had handed him a jetpack instead of boots. For a short time, this became a mini game in its own right. Teams would set up combinations of jump pads and gravity lifts just to see who could get the highest. It was incredible to watch, and even more incredible when it happened in actual matches. And because of that, it has earned its place on this list for a reason. Pathfinder's grapple hook is all about mobility and verticality. You fire the hook, you zip in, you reposition. That is the idea. But during one period, players discovered that under some conditions, the grapple could remain anchored in midair flare if the animation was cancelled at the right moment. Once this happened, the tether stayed active and Pathfinder could swing endlessly across the map. Matches with this glitch felt like something out of a cartoon. Pathfinder mains would fly past enemies at impossible angles, bypassing normal terrain, strafing at high velocity, and dropping into fights where the enemy least expected them. For a brief period, certain cosmetic skins, specifically the Apex Overdrive and Killer Bee skins for Bangalore, caused her character model to vanish entirely, leaving only her head and weapon visible. Imagine playing a normal fight, thinking you have full vision of the enemy team. Then you spot just a floating head and gun peeking around a corner. It's impossible to tell what's going on. Is she crouched? Is she behind cover? Is she flying? Nobody knew. The glitch wasn't intentional. Of course, it was just a cosmetic bug, but it created absolute chaos in matches. It didn't last forever. Respawn patched the issue relatively quickly once clips went viral. But for a short time, Bangalore went from a stealthy soldier to a nearly invisible ghost with a very visible gun, creating some of the funniest and weirdest moments in Apex history. Alright, so those are some of the funniest, weirdest, and most broken glitches in Apex Legends history. Some were hilarious, some completely screwed up matches, but all of them are unforgettable. If you were around for these moments, you remember the laughs, screams, panic, and disbelief. If you were not here for them, Apex always finds new ways to break itself in wild and ridiculous fashion. Thanks for watching, and let me know which of these glitches you survived.